Hello, and welcome to another episode of Around the World with Father Joe. I'm Father Joe Gambala, pastor of St. Malachy Catholic Church. And today, I want to tell you about a trip I made to Portugal and Spain. Almost 10 years ago, I was approaching my 25th anniversary as a priest. And my godson and first cousin, dentist Brian Bishop, made an excellent suggestion. He said, why don't we go on a pilgrimage hike to the shrine of St. James, otherwise known as Santiago de Compostela, on the western tip of Spain. He said we would fly into Portugal and then hike north along one of the Camino routes all the way into Spain. It was about a 2-week walk. It would be like walking from Sterling Heights, Michigan to Cedar Point, the kind of hike we were going to take. We hired a guide and we flew off. We landed in Porto, Portugal. There we met our guide. And the first morning we started the first day of our hike. The first day was quite remarkable. The Portuguese countryside looked like it had been designed by Disney. And Brian and I were taking all kinds of pictures of the barns and the herds of sheep. And it was October, so there were piles of pumpkins in the fields. And it really looked quite remarkable. Then that next morning we woke up and we were a little bit sore because neither one of us was used to something like this. And we began our second day of the hike. Well, by the third day of the hike, the blisters began to appear and the aching began to appear in all parts of our bodies. And we began to realize that this was going to be a lot harder than we thought. We hiked on the fourth day through a pouring rain the whole day long. And now one day we climbed a mountain. I have no idea how these pilgrims in days of yore would climb these mountains and why they didn't walk around them. But whatever the reason may be, we climbed mountains, hiked through forests, fields, across a couple of busy highways, and on our way into Spain we went. But with every day passing, the sorer we felt, the more blisters appeared. There was a ritual every night of taping everything up and putting on the Blistex and taking Motrin and doing everything we could to get through the episode. And finally, on the very last day of the hike, we arrived in Santiago de Compostela to the cathedral. I was exhausted. All I wanted to do was sleep for 2 days. But when one finishes the pilgrimage, one attends Mass, usually presided over by a bishop, in this amazing cathedral. It's very, very large. It's about 3 times the size of Sacred Heart Cathedral here in Detroit. And this particular cathedral has the world's biggest incenser. The incenser stands about 5 feet high, and you load up the incense into it with a shovel. Well, we got to the church, and I pulled out my robes from my pack, and I put on my vestments and got into the sacristy, and there were a group of priests there from Poland. They had arrived by train. They hadn't hiked. But we talked. They knew some English, and they asked me if I heard of, they had a cousin in Cleveland. They wanted to know if I heard of this Cleveland. And I said, oh, yes, I'm familiar with the city of Cleveland. And then there was a bishop there who had flown in from the Philippines. The bishop and I began to talk, and the bishop said, now you're here celebrating your 25th anniversary. And I says, yes, Bishop, I am. And he says, well, then I want you standing next to me on that altar. Well, I didn't expect that. I thought I'd be sitting in the back with the priest from Poland, just being glad I was there and that I'd accomplished this. He said, no, I want you up front with me. And then when it came time to put the incense in the incenser, the bishop took the shovel and put a couple shovelfuls in, and then he gave it to me to put a couple shovel loads in. And I was honored and amazed. Didn't think at all that this could possibly be happening. My godson Brian had a great seat where he was able to take some pictures of this. And then the 20 guys that are used hoist up this giant incenser and begin to swing it from one end of the cathedral to the other. And the stream of smoke that comes out fills the top of the church. And it swung by me back and forth just a few feet in front of me. And what I remember is how happy I was and the joy that filled every part of my body. And for the moment there, I couldn't feel any of those aches and pains and blisters. All I could feel was a sense of joy. And reflecting upon that trip, I said, this is a metaphor for life. We begin our life, we're young and everything's new, like the first day, and everything's a joy and everything's wonderful. And as we go on through life, the worries of the world come upon us and things begin to weigh upon our shoulders, and we begin to fret. We begin to wonder if we're going to make the next day or pay that next bill, or what's going to happen to the kids and what's going to happen to the grandkids and all those things that people worry about in their lives. But if we stay true to our faith, that last day we enter the kingdom. Just like on that last day I stood in the cathedral and felt a joy fill my soul at that Mass, I said that's what's going to be like at the end of life when we stand before the gates of heaven. And whatever crosses we had to bear, whatever burdens we had to carry, whatever pains that we had will long be forgotten in the joy of being forever with the Lord in heaven.